Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the teleconference. This is the Library Advisory Commission LAC meeting for January 24th, 2022. To ask a question, please use the raise hand feature or the Q&A feature. All of the questions must include the item number, and you'll see the raise hand icon and the Q&A icon down there on your Zoom control bar. This meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube. To join this webinar using a telephone only, please dial any of the following numbers and I'll read one of them aloud. 1-833-548-0276, and then slowly enter the webinar ID of 827-0336-2505. The chair of the commission, Lindsay Bass, will now call the meeting to order. We are transitioning to gallery view. Please stand by. Over to you, Chair Bass.
Call our January. Thank you, Moderator Jones. We'll now call the January 24th Library Advisory Commission meeting to order. Clerk Simano Vargas, will you please do roll call, please?
Rena Dubin.
Present.
Jennifer Mount.
Present.
Mary Ripma. Sorry, I didn't hear her.
No. Present.
Thank you. Mike Termini.
Present.
Pamela Woll.
Here.
Tricia Wynne.
Here.
And Chair Lindsay Bass.
Present. Great. Our meeting is called to order. We'll move on to item number 2, which is the adoption of our agenda. Are there any clarifying questions on tonight's agenda?
I'll move the agenda.
I'll second.
We have a first by Commissioner Termini, a second by Vice Chair Dubin. Clerk Simano Vargas, will you please do a roll call vote?
Rena Dubin.
Aye.
Jennifer Mount.
Aye.
Mary Ripma.
Aye.
Mike Termini.
Aye.
Pamela Woll.
Aye.
Tricia Wynne.
Aye.
And Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. The agenda moves unanimously. So we'll move on to item 3, which is our oral communications. As a reminder, any member of the audience may address the board on any matter either on or off the agenda that is within the board's jurisdiction. Note, however, that the board is not able to undertake extended discussion or act on non-agendized items. Such items can be referred to staff for appropriate action, which may include placement on a future agenda. If you intend to address the subject that is on the agenda, please hold your comments regarding that item until it is before the board so that we may properly address all comments on that subject at the same time. Moderator Jones, are there any oral communications?
Chair Bass, there are. Jean Brocklebank, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Good evening, commissioners. I assume you can hear me okay. I have 2 things under oral communications. The first is that on the agenda to join this meeting, there were no clickable links. So nor could I copy and paste the ID number. I had to write the meeting ID number down and then type it into my Zoom application. I've attended literally dozens of government Zoom meetings, and this is a first. So the suggestion is that the whoever makes the agenda simply takes it from their word processor and exports it as a PDF. And that way the clickable links will remain in that PDF. The second thing that I'd like to say is a question, or I trust you understand, somebody's understanding what I just said about that. It's okay, good. I see some heads nodding. All right. It was and I'm thinking it's a library that helps teach patrons how to use digital materials. So The other thing is just to make sure that I've studied the Brown Act and to make sure that the public will be able to comment on any item on tonight's agenda. For instance, even if it's a presentation, and I'm referring to agenda item number 8, which is a presentation, that when that presentation is over and commissioners have discussed it, that the public will also have a chance to comment on that. So I just wanted to confirm that ahead of time. And other than that, I am seeing for the first time our new library director. And welcome to Santa Cruz and welcome to the Santa Cruz Public Libraries. I've been here since 1979 and I love the library. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Moderator Jones, are there any additional oral communications?
Chair Bass, I do not see additional oral communications.
And just comment on Jean's confirmation, we will make sure that we do go out to the public after our presentation tonight. So we will give you the affirmative on that one. Jean, thank you for your comments. Okay, we will move from agenda item 3, oral communications then, and proceed to item 4, which is the report by the library director. And as Jean alluded to, we do have Yolande Wilburn, our new Santa Cruz Public Libraries director, here for the first time. Many thanks to Assistant Director Howard for all of his work serving in the interim capacity, and very excited to have Yolande, you here with us tonight at your first Library Advisory Commission meeting. So I will let you take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Bass. Thank you, commissioners. And yes, first of all, as you can see from my report that's included in the agenda packet, a big, huge thank you to Eric. He's been a tremendous help to me as I've onboarded here at the library. He's been helping, as you can see from what I've put in the report, he's been helping me to get comfortable and familiar with a lot of the things that are already going on, and we do have a lot going on, as well as getting to know community members. So I'm really appreciative of that and the fantastic job that he has done as interim library director. As I've stated in the report, the first 3 weeks I'm going on, this is beginning the 4th week. It's been really interesting getting to know about all of the building projects. If I have not met you already, I'm looking forward to meeting with various members of the community, including all of our commissioners. And just to let you know, we have a few really interesting things going on. I think Bruce is here. He's going to give a report for the Friends of the Library because we have a really fantastic press conference that's going to be coming up. Really excited about the work that we're going to be doing on the downtown mixed use project. And then I want to take a moment to thank all of our library staff. We continue to battle with Omicron every day, having staff members who need to be off because they may have tested positive or have children who have tested positive. So it's an ongoing battle for us, but know that we are going to continue to keep our libraries open and be safe and healthy for our community. I'm happy with that. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
First, we'll go to commissioners. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Director Wilburn, clarifying and technical in nature in reference to the report that she and Eric submitted?
Well, I'd just like to thank Director Wilburn for, first of all, taking the job. There are those that would run in fear, given some histories we've had. Thank you very much, and thank you for jumping in and just doing it. And I look forward to meeting you. And thank you for being at this meeting.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wynne?
Yeah, and I don't have a question either. I thought the report was very straightforward. I look forward to the presentations, but I do want to formally welcome you and look forward to working with you. So thank you. And Eric, thank you for everything that you've done. And I look forward to continuing our work together.
I would second all of that. I did wonder about how it's going, filling all the positions.
Yes, so we do have our library assistant too. Those positions, we have 3 positions there that are currently being filled. We're in that process of recruitment. It's going to be closing soon. We have our, or it just closed, we have our library, our lit manager, our library information technology manager position. That's a really critical position for us, and that recruitment is currently open. So we're looking to fill that. We are, for our part-time accounting person, we have we have interviews coming up. They'll begin this week and I think finish up next week with those. So we're hoping to begin filling some of those positions. As I stated, with our staff going out for COVID and needing to stay home if they're sick so that we keep everybody else healthy and safe, we are experiencing some staffing shortages. Our staff have rallied, and so I'm really proud of them that when we need people to come in, they've been on call and been able to show up and do the job so that we can keep our doors open. But that is a critical piece, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to make sure that the commission was aware of all of our vacancies and how that is affecting us right now.
Do you have a protocol for staff for testing? You know, routinely for COVID or?
We do not do routine testing. We typically will have an Eric, I'm happy to have you jump on if you want to speak to this. Eric has been sort of handling our staff who may report that they have tested positive. And so what we want to do is make sure that we are notifying, contact tracing, and notifying other staff who may have been in close contact with them so that then they can go and get tested. And so I have to say, again, Eric's been doing a phenomenal job over the last 3 weeks that I've been here. I think there hasn't been a week that we haven't had to do some. Eric's been sending out letters each week. And contacting staff to make sure everyone is staying healthy and safe.
I would just thank you, Yolande. We follow our parent company, so to speak, is the City of Santa Cruz. We follow their protocols through the HR department, and then we work closely with the risk manager for the city, who really guides us on that. And how we follow that. But yeah, we don't do, as Yolande said, we don't do regular testing unless staff call in and say they have symptoms, and then we ask if they have a PCR test before coming to work. So that's kind of the standard that we're practicing right now. And as everyone knows, these things change on a pretty regular basis. So.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Dubin.
Hi, just wanted to say welcome, and I'm definitely looking forward to working with you and exploring our different roles together and seeing how we can be of service. I do want to mention that our last meeting in November, we did have a staffing report. I think it was Laura Whaley, if I'm not mistaken, is her name. And I just didn't want that to be forgotten. I'm not sure what the status was of that, but I think some important issues were raised, and just wanted to make sure that we can help with that process going forwards.
Terrific, thank you.
Are there any other commissioner comments or questions? I'm going to check with Moderator Jones quickly to see if we have any public comments on the Library Director's report.
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
Very well. We will move to item 5 on the agenda then, which is a report by the Friends of Santa Cruz Public Libraries. And we have esteemed Executive Director Bruce Cotter with us tonight. Bruce, lovely to see you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Bass, and thank you, members of the commission. I appreciate the opportunity to give you a brief report on where we are today. I wanted you guys to be among the first to know that we made our goal. You know, we set this incredible target of $1 million to help with renovation at Aptos, at Garfield Park, and Branch 40 branches. And we actually got the check that took us over the top on Christmas Eve. An amazing Christmas present to the library system. In addition to the fact that we met the overall goal, we met the goals for Aptos, Branch 40, and Garfield Park. We had set separate goals for each of those. We met those goals. As you know, there's an opportunity to honor the memory of Allison Endert and honor the efforts that Mike Rotkin put in place to keep Garfield Park as a going concern some years ago. And we met the objectives for both of those. So we are just incredibly grateful to the well over 500 donors who contributed to the campaign, and as also to the campaign volunteers. And I would particularly want to point out your esteemed committee member, Tricia Wynne, who was our Aptos chair and just did a phenomenal job. So she ran the campaign for Aptos. Martha Dexter ran the campaign for the city branches, and all of us together, we pulled it off. So it's just a remarkable thing, and I'm really pleased to let you know that. As Yolanda said, we are going to be having a press conference this coming Wednesday. That's where we'll make the formal announcement of the successful completion of the campaign. Yolanda will speak, as will our president, Janice O'Driscoll, and I believe Tricia and Martha as well. And we'd like to have as many people as possible. We just like to have a nice, hearty atmosphere. It's at 12 noon on Wednesday in front of the Library Administration Building on Union. So you're all invited. We'll have signs to wave and everything. So please, if you can make it, do join us. Beyond that, I would just say, moving forward, we are going to be really focusing our efforts on getting the facts out about the downtown mixed-use facility and ensuring that this project is also successfully implemented. There is an awful lot of confusion and inaccurate messaging going on right now around that subject, and we're going to be working hard to clear that up. I'm glad that Bonnie will be speaking with you today, because I know that she will be a big part of that. So unless you have any questions, that's all. I just wanted to share the good news with you. Thank you very much. Tricia?
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you. I also just wanted to point out that Mary Ripma made a beautiful quilt.
Oh, yes.
And she has been selling raffle tickets for it, and it's gorgeous. And I hope I win it. But if I don't, I know it will go to a good home. And she's been at the Aptos Farmers Market with the Aptos Friends once a month for the last several months, selling raffle tickets. So I really just wanted to commend you for that, Mary, and to thank you.
Well, thank you. And I can update you on the amount. It sounds pretty small after Bruce's numbers, but we're getting close to $1,000.
Wow.
Well, and we are not done. As I said, we went over $1 million. We are actually right now sitting at about $1,025,000. So
Wow.
Gifts keep coming in, and we are happy to take them.
Great work being done by the Friends group. And thank you to the commissioners, Wynne and Ripma, for your contributions, as well as additional support from other commission members to support the campaign. Are there any additional commissioner comments or questions on Bruce's report? Seeing none, I'm going, Vice Chair Dubin, yes.
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you coming to give us these updates, Bruce. And it would be nice if this was something, I know you came last time, so it would be nice if you wouldn't mind coming or sending a report, at least that in our packet. I think it's very helpful.
I would be happy to do that, Rena.
Yeah, keep us coordinated. It's appreciated.
Great, thank you, Vice Chair Dubin. We'll check quickly with Moderator Jones to see if we have any public comments on the Friends report.
Chair Bass, there are no public comments.
Okay. We will move along to commission member reports. So we've had some updates just on the capital campaign. Are there any other commissioner updates that would like to be shared at this moment? Okay, seeing none, we will move along to our consent calendar. So we have 2 items on tonight's consent calendar. The first are the minutes for our November 15th meeting. The action there is to approve. The second is the second quarter work plan submitted in our packet. And the action there is to accept and file. At this time, are there any clarifying questions, or would anyone like to pull an item from the consent calendar?
I'll move consent.
I can second.
Oh, go ahead.
I heard Tricia first, so we'll go Commissioner Termini with a move and Commissioner Wynne with a second. Clerk Simano Vargas, would you please do a roll call vote on the consent calendar?
Rena Dubin,
Aye.
Jennifer Mount,
Aye.
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Mike Termini,
Aye.
Pamela Woll,
Aye.
Tricia Wynne,
Aye.
and Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. We will move on to item 8 on the agenda then, which are our presentations tonight. We have 2 presentations. The first will be a progress and future of the mixed use project for the downtown library. And this presentation will be given by Bonnie Lipscomb from the Economic Development Department, City of Santa Cruz. So Bonnie, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay, and good evening, commissioners, and good evening, Yolanda and Eric. It's good to see you again. And thank you so much for inviting me this evening. I know for some of you, this will be part of this presentation. Most of it will be a repeat, but there's definitely a lot of information, and I look forward to answering any questions you have. And with that, I will attempt to share my screen. Let's see. Okay, can everyone see that? Great. Okay, so first I have to be able to, there we go. Okay, so the agenda for this presentation is just to give you a summary of efforts to date, to briefly talk about the project schedule, a budget update, which is the same one, hasn't changed yet from what I gave to council in December for the approval for those of you who saw that presentation, and then just where we are in next steps. So first, just on major highlights, we had a council direction from actually June of 2020 to conduct a revisioning reuse process for the existing library. And that was done by Project for Public Spaces and Group 4 Architecture. And that was completed with an engagement over 700 constituents. If anyone is interested in the report for that, there is a link which we've just moved as of this week, sort of weekend, to the main city page. So you can click on a link for the library mixed use project. So it's a little bit easier to see and get routed to our project page. We've also secured an affordable housing master developer to develop the 100% low and very low income units. We've executed a contract with the master library architect, Jason Architecture. And we've conducted 2 rounds of community outreach on the conceptual design of the library. And I'll go into those in a little bit more in a few minutes. And we've completed the concept for the site configuration. Council approved that on December 14th. It includes a 35,000 square foot library plus a 5,000 square foot roof deck, as well as 125 affordable housing units, and parking has now been reduced from 400 down to 310. And I'll go through some of those details on the next few slides. So first up in summary efforts, this is our architecture team. There's a few more at the firm working on this, but these are the two that you will see most frequently: Abe, Jason, and Katie Stewart. They're a great team. They worked with the city and with the DLAC, and so a few of you were engaged in that effort in 2018, 2019 on the current library site and a renovation of the library. And they're just a great team to work with. So we're really excited that they were willing to be part of this process again. And their community outreach particularly, I think, is really top notch, but they're great to work with. And so far we have so many stakeholders involved in this project, and different from the developer, to the developer's architects, to the surveyors, to city staff, that it's great to have someone with their expertise and caliber on this project. So we're pretty excited to be working with them. Just briefly on the community outreach, on the conceptual design, which was just approved by council on December 14th. We had 6 stakeholder focus group engagements between November 1st and 4th. We also had 3 community workshops on December 10th prior to the December 14th. That presentation for the council meeting on December 14th is also available. You can watch the presentation in full through the link on the Made City page going to the project page. This is just to give you an idea of what some of that outreach looked like. It was a facilitated session led by Jason Architecture, where they went in for the small groups for different stakeholder groups and got sort of verbatim sticky notes, sort of comments, which they posted. And because they're, architects and artists, they were all color coordinated. They were really pretty. So this is just one of them, and you can see some of the feedback that they received in just one of the questions. So total, there were over 38 questions, 60 participants, and close to a little under 800 responses that were recorded. And all of these, through all these sessions, are also available on our project page if you want to really go deep. December 10th, we had the presentation really by Jason of what they've designed to date conceptually. That presentation, as I mentioned, is on the city website. You don't need to look at this link. You can just go to cityofsantacruz.com and click on the library button on that main page now. What we're working on right now, and this is definitely in draft form, is just a fact sheet. What is the project, key milestones? We have a version of this on our city project page now, but we're just updating it with the latest information, as well as including some of the graphics. I think we're going to include some interior shots as well. So you'll see this very soon. I just wanted you to know this is underway and almost available. Conceptual design. Again, this is largely what was presented to council on December 14th. Council did approve the project, and I'll show you the design in just a second. It increased the affordable housing from the overall program that was approved by council in June of 2020, from a minimum of 50 affordable housing units to between 100 and 125. We are pretty sure we're going to get the 125. We have all the site layout. They're looking at it now. We're waiting for the final survey on site survey to make sure everything fits on the site. But that is our goal, is to maximize the affordable housing on the back part of the project. We've also have council approval to decrease the parking from 400 to 310 stalls. By doing so, that allowed us to get that extra level of affordable housing on top of the parking. So you now have 3 levels of parking and 5 of housing. So you'll see that soon. We also included, and council approved, a program expansion to include an on-site daycare facility. And our goal is to have that on the ground floor, if that all fits. And again, part of that will be determined on the survey work. And to approve the library design changes to include a 2-story library with a green roof and an adjacent roof deck. And I'll show that to you in just the next few minutes. And then finally, we had direction to staff to return to council with a preliminary library cost model based on the updated library design and site program changes. So that's something we're going to be working on over the next few months. We need to actually get the schematic designs done so that we can then have a formal cost estimate prepared. And then we'll be able to do the full costing model, and we'll come back to council at that point. And we're happy to come back to the advisory commission as well. I will say, when I say we actually just hired a development manager who will be the project lead on this. So you probably won't see me as frequently. You'll see Brian Borguno, who has been hired to be the development manager. He has really deep experience in project management and project development. So we're pretty excited to have him on board. So just briefly, the conceptual design process. We started out with massing. This is the entire site. And when we're looking at this area, the original program that was approved by council back in June of 2020 had the yellow, it represents the library, had the library on bottom with housing on top, and then a separate tucked away at the back, this is called sort of a traditional wrap, parking structure. So we changed that working with our architect team. And really, we shrunk the size of the parking, and we pushed it back and reduced the overall envelope of the parking and pushed it back so that we could actually increase the height, which you see down here, of the library and give it the green roof. And then we slid the housing on top of the parking. So sorry, this just sort of shows the process. And with the recent council approval, we were able to increase the number of housing units. So that's what you see here now. This is just showing the additional articulation. And this is important because I'm going to be showing you a cross section right here at a narrow part of the housing. So keep that in mind when it come to it. Other parts, they go in and out, and these areas right here create opportunities for open space for the residential. Overall, as I mentioned, right now we have in the light blue 125 units of housing, and here's the breakdown. We have community space on these sides areas, and then this gray area is the residential roof deck, separate from the library roof deck. So I just wanted to make that clear. The library is a 2-story library plus a mezzanine that opens out onto the roof deck, and the roof deck is right now it's at 5,000 square feet. And so once we finish the survey work, hopefully it'll still continue to be close to that. The parking is in, parking is in this gray area right here. And that is reduced from 400 to 300 spaces over 3 levels. And then what you don't see here now, because they haven't fully designed it, is the commercial daycare. And it's, we're looking right here for it to be here in between the library and some of the commercial. It's possible it might be on this side too. We're looking at some of the open space requirements and where in the program we can actually put that with the building where it makes the most sense. So that's something that we're working on with the design team right now. This just shows the sustainability goals. As you can see, we have solar panels on both on top of the housing, some on top of the library. This sort of light green represents a green roof. And the goal is zero net energy for the building. We also have a convertible parking garage, 15, 20, hopefully not 15, but 20 plus years down the road, if the parking is not needed, it could be as early as 15, that we could really assess it for how it could be multi-purposed into other uses. And so there have been some fun creative ideas of what you could convert, particularly some of that bottom floor, because there's not a lot of natural light in that, what it could be. And so there's some fun ideas around that. The goal for the housing, all electric. This is pretty exciting. We've been working with our climate action program manager on this and some of the goals for the project and the city goals as well. This is that cross section I mentioned. So just keep in mind, this is one of the narrowest parts of the housing. So most of the housing is a little wider than this, but wanted to show this cross section particularly so you could see actually how big some of those community spaces are on that deck level. And then you could also see the distinction between the private housing and what a wonderful amenity space this is and how it relates to the library. While this is all of the library space, a lot of the residents will be able to look down on the green roof, which is a lot more open space than typically you would see in an urban infill mixed multifamily housing projects. So that's pretty exciting. And then you can also see the parking and the height of the parking and how it relates to the library as well as the housing. This is an aerial view just to show the solar panels, to show those community areas I was talking about. We have specific children areas, as well as a teen area and a general community area. And then all of these are the residential roof deck in the gray areas here. This is the roof deck of the library, the green roof, the library solar panels, and this is the library's roof deck. And I'll show you a rendering of that in just a minute. This is the interior space, and I will say, I'm not going to go into the detail of this. This is something that I believe that the architect is going to come and working with Yolanda and Eric and the library team, really for them to come in on the interior spaces. But this is the first floor. It does have the children's area predominantly, takes up the largest part of the first floor. You also have the staff area. The blue represents the community rooms and how they're accessed off the library. What's great about this design is you have, this is looking right here. Yeah, this is, so you have Lincoln here, Cathcart and Cedar, and you have an entry on the lobby off of Cedar Street, as well as for those that are coming driving on an entry point straight off of the ground level into the lobby area. So you can enter it from both sides, but it's secure. And what's great about the lobby area is it's designed so that after hours, these blue areas can be booked by the community, and the other areas would still be secure. There's also in this area here, there is the loading dock as well for the staff area that connects straight to the parking garage, which is it's a real nice amenity. And then we're working on the ingress and egress from the parking and some of the traffic considerations that we have to be worked out just to make sure that traffic flows. This is the second floor, and you can see this is largely the adults area. And then this is the part of the teen area and some study rooms. And then the access to the roof deck is here. This is the mezzanine and some more study rooms up here on the mezzanine level, which walks straight out onto the roof deck. Here's a rendering from the corner of Cedar and Lincoln. So imagine you're standing at the corner of Jack's and you're looking at the library this way. And so this is the children's area. And what's nice about this is it's hard to tell from this, but these they're wooden slats with the light. So you get all the sunlight, but you still have the privacy for the children's area. And then upstairs is predominantly the adults area. As I mentioned, there is some of the teens back here. And in the mezzanine, there's special study rooms, et cetera. And I will show you a couple of interior renderings in a second. This just shows some of the materials. I didn't bring the architect's material boards, but that is all available on our website if you really want to go deep into some of that. And then over here is a transition into some of the commercial retail on this corner, and potentially the where the daycare may be on the Cedar side or may wrap around Cathcart. This is the 5,000 square foot roof deck. Here's the entry point into the library. It will be secured as this is programmable space for the library. Here are some study alcoves, and some of the feedback we received from some of the community meetings is that, we could potentially, and this is all subject to sort of future community engagement, but these trees that are here, you could take one of these large planter areas and potentially put some playground equipment, and have this be a children's area as well. And that was expressed as something that folks were interested in. And potentially also, we're looking at providing electricity and potentially water as well for potentially kiosk that could be up here as well. So those are some of the feedback items that our team is looking at as far as making this roof deck as programmable as possible and used as possible. This is the lobby. And so, those 2 points where I showed you could come in off the garage, or you could come in off the Cedar Street side. This is what it will feel like when you come in. So this is the info desk, this library admin info desk, and this is some of like the current periodicals and things to sort of excite you before you journey into other parts of the library. This is access to some of the community rooms, and then sort of the grand staircase that goes up to the second floor. And there's also an elevator that takes you up as well. This is the second floor, which is largely the adult section. This is the teen room. This is the mezzanine up here. And these are those little study areas that I was mentioning. This is about halfway across, so kind of in the middle of the upstairs. This isn't the whole upstairs, just so that to orient you about what this looks like. So project schedule. Where we are, we're right here. Actually, we're right here. It's 2022. Just to have some of the key dates of just looking on this timeline, you see the master planning, Measure S approvals, some of the steps we've had along the way. Where we are right now is we're fully into the design and engineering. We do have a couple of opportunities for public engagement coming up, both in the schematic design phase and design development. And there'll be opportunities for interior design and tenant improvements, particularly on the library component, is what we'll be coming forward to in the next few months. Goal timeline, it's roughly a 24 to 30 month construction period. We're in the entitlement section now, as well as the, first it has schematic design, then design development, and then actually construction drawings. And then hopefully we move forward to bidding. So it is it's a multi-year process, but the approvals in December were really important to update the program so that we can move forward. So budget update, briefly, these are the sources of funding we have for the project. Measure S 25.5, and I have a plus there because I understand that the Garfield and the Branson 40 budgets are coming in a little under budget, the combination. And so we're tracking on that. And obviously the punch list will need to be completed and those projects will need to be closed out before we see if there is additional funding to be returned to the downtown branch. But right now we're holding the current amount. Parking, how this will be funded is through financing, and whether it's a conventional loan or parking revenue bonds will be determined mostly by the interest rate at the time where we're really ready to go. But the parking will pay for itself, and so that's why I have plus or minus. It'll be based on the cost estimate for when we get those engineered drawings complete. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund Council has approved funding for this project. We recently received, last year we received $5 million. This year we received $5 million for our Affordable Housing Trust Fund match. And so we do have the affordable housing component contribution on the city side fully funded for the project. The other sources of affordable housing are traditional affordable housing tax credits. We'll also be applying for rounds of grants. We at the city just in the last 2 months have been awarded infill and infrastructure grant for our Pack Station South affordable housing project of $20.9 million. And this Wednesday, we are being recommended by HCD at the state for a $29 million award for our Pack Station North project, which is 95 units of affordable housing. And that includes $9 million for infrastructure and transit improvements related to that affordable housing project, in addition to $20 million for the affordable housing. So we feel really confident that with our development partner, both for the future and Eden Housing, that we'll be able to secure the remaining affordable housing funding that we need in a timely manner. We also have approved funding in our capital improvement budget for the project. And if needed, we're proposing to commit future CIP funds to close any sort of gap, as well as we've committed $1 million from our Economic Development Trust Fund for any of the commercial retail elements. So right now we have a total budget of roughly $104 million. And all the elements that you see on the right are paying for themselves. I think where we do have a shortfall is on the library side. As you see, we have 25.5 raised for Measure F, and we are estimating, and this is this is pre-cost estimate. So this is just based on very preliminary conceptual design and looking at some of the materials that the architect's proposing, that the library is in the range of 30 to 33 million. There is significant cost savings of doing this with the larger project. We are sharing foundation costs, we are sharing contractors, we're sharing major overhead, soft costs are being absorbed in the rest of the project. So there's some real benefits, and which results into us getting both more library as well as better amenities and nicer materials in the library. So we're pretty excited that we're going to have a state-of-the-art, library that our whole community can be proud of. So next steps, as I mentioned, we're transitioning into schematic design phase. These are more detailed drawings based on actual survey work. We know what the sites are. We're getting the elevations. We're getting a lot of that detail that we need to really be able to accurately cost estimate the project. I mentioned we're continuing our community outreach. We're also continuing, and this is ongoing, our farmers market engagement. We meet regularly. We met last Wednesday. We're having another meeting this week with both the farmers market and on both looking at lot 7 as well as the council direction to look at the existing library site and starting to lay out conceptual designs and with feedback from the farmers market of how they want the market laid out and what are some of those features. So that's a fun process, and they're great partners. We're hoping to work with our library team here at the city and submit the library grant application that is due in February or March of this year. And that could really be a significant funding on the library side. So we're really looking forward to that opportunity. And then our goal is to submit a project application internally at the city. That's part of any project that's moving a project forward to be approved by the city council to be built in the city needs to submit a project application. And so we're looking to have the schematic designs and the engineering in place to be able to submit that in February or March of this year. And then, as I mentioned, an updated cost model in March or April of 2022. So that concludes my presentation. I know I spoke quickly, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And with that, I will stop sharing. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Bonnie. That was really helpful. Showing in a couple of different places. Apologies, everyone. I had some technical difficulties during that presentation. We do have some commissioner questions, it looks like. Before we go there, I just want to give Director Wilburn and Assistant Director Howard just an opportunity if there's any additional comments you'd like to add to Bonnie's presentation before we move to commissioner questions.
I will just add that I'm really excited about this project. I love that there's going to be childcare available, that's something, a piece that we're looking to add. I think childcare facilities and libraries go hand in hand. And we're really excited about that as an opportunity for new library users. And also excited about the opportunity, as you may or may not know, California State Library did make available $439 million in infrastructure grant funding. Libraries can apply for up to 10 million per library. And so that's the grant application that Bonnie talked about. So as that process is expected to open, as she said, in February. And so we'll be working with Bonnie's team to get that grant application submitted and get the $10 million for our downtown library. Really excited about that.
Yeah, and I'll just second that. I think there's so much synergy between housing and the daycare is just really terrific. And to think too, when we were thinking of renovating the old library, that would only get us 30,000 square feet, and this project gets us to 35,000 square feet, which is that difference of 5,000 is the equivalent of 2 Garfield Park libraries. And then there's another 5,000 square feet that we get with the roof. So it's really 4 Garfield Parks that we're getting with this compared to the renovation project. And it is a beautiful design. And just to also note that Abe, the architect, he's the one who did La Selva. He's doing the renovation for Branciforte, Garfield, Live Oak, and Boulder. So his team is very familiar with how the library works as a system, and he knows all of our players as well. So that's really been beneficial.
Great, thank you. Sorry, everyone. Again, I lost audio there for a second. Let's move to commissioner questions. Thank you for the clarifying comments and added context. We'll go to Vice Chair Dubin and then Commissioner Wynne.
Hi, thanks, Bonnie, for the presentation. As always, it was a lot of information, but very well articulated. I appreciate it. And I've been involved with this as part of the DLAC, the Downtown Library Advisory Committee, since 2017, I think. So it's been a long process. And I know that we were really hopeful that it would come together with the housing. And I just can't tell you how thrilled I am that our far-reaching vision is actually coming to fruition. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Abe Jason and his team, because I don't know if y'all have seen the presentation, if you were in one of those meetings in December, but it's really worth going back and listening to the recordings if you haven't. The thing that has been the most striking for me is just how much I feel that they have listened to the community and the community's needs. And to me, it just seems like it's public process in action, and we're not even finished with that. But I love that they have incorporated open space and community gathering space and fewer parking and more affordable housing and more library. And also just the light, the idea that the library needs as much light as possible, and moving the parking garage aspect of it so that it's has less of a footprint, and we're really prioritizing the library and the housing on this project. To me, it's just been fabulous to see how the process continues to be a community engagement. So.
Great comments, Vice Chair Dubin. Commissioner Wynne.
Well, I really, Rena, you said everything I wanted to say. It truly is the best outcome because of public input. And I've been tracking this for 5 years or so, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. And I mean, you're right, the team is listening to the community and, and just ticking off the boxes, and the project just keeps getting nicer every time I see it. I'm totally excited about it. The one question I had was, what are our options for addressing the gap between, the budget for the library and, what it looks like we're going to need. But I think Yolande said there's a chance that we might get some of these state library, which I'm assuming are infrastructure grants. So that is super exciting. If there's anything I can do to help with that process, I really want to, and I'm very excited. So thank you.
And I'll just respond, and Yolande, you're much more familiar with the library grant itself. Eric and I worked on a pre-submittal before the holiday break. But I will say, yeah, if we're successful getting your grant, if we get the $10 million grant, I don't think we'll have a shortfall on the library side. But similar to how we've been able to apply for other grants funding that's available at the state level on our 2 other affordable housing projects that are mixed use projects. Both of them, our Pack Station South project is a collaboration also with Santa Cruz Community Health Center and Dientes, and Pack Station North is a project with Metro. And so between those 2 projects, we've secured over 20 million of public infrastructure funding in addition to the affordable housing funding. So that's always our goal. Is, what funding is out there? Does it meet the project goals? Are we eligible? Let's apply for it. So we'll be working with Yolande and Eric and the library team, and just applying for opportunities as they're available.
Great, thank you, Bonnie. Commissioners, any additional questions or comments on that presentation? Vice Chair Dubin?
Yes, I just wanted to go back to the public comments part. So it would be nice. I'm just curious. It seems like there are more opportunities for the community to provide input. And it felt like I just kind of heard about the other opportunities. So I'm just curious, is there anything we can do as commissioners, or is there anything that the city is doing to really make sure that the community is involved in the design process?
Yeah, we don't have the exact schedule yet, but we will make sure we were definitely fast and furious trying to meet a deadline of December for the original conceptual design. But for the future community outreach, I think as we're working on it, we're going to have ample time to do some outreach. And I think one of the other elements that's really nice, now that we've moved up a button to our main project page, it's really easy to get the information and see it. And that's part of the feedback that we received as well from members of the community. It's that, hey, we can't find where it is. And so we are providing a link, but if you can't click on that link, it's like, it was a rabbit warren. So we now have it front and center on the main city page because it is a priority of the city, and the city council is prioritizing it as well. So hopefully it'll be really easy to see the project information, but we can share, and we're having regular meetings with Yolande and her team, as well as our total project stakeholders. And so once we get those dates of when those community meetings are, we can share them and make sure that they get to the commission.
And just to follow, okay, just to follow up, is that I would love to see that when you know those dates, just putting them on the homepage of the library. As I didn't see that in the past, but I think people who care about the library, they're going to the homepage. It would be nice for people to be involved. People are very curious about this project, and just sitting in on the community meetings that I have, people have some really amazing ideas. So I just want to be able to share it.
Great, that's great. And Yolande and Eric, I don't know if you have your own webmaster for the library site. Okay, because Elizabeth on the city side also works with us to update our webpage. So anyway, maybe we can coordinate to make sure that when we get updates that you get them as well. And that's great feedback.
Great. Agreed. Okay, so fantastic questions and feedback from commissioners. We do have some public comment. We're going to have Moderator Jones read a few questions that came through. And then once those questions are finished, we'll just check to see if there's any remaining comments or questions from the public. So Moderator Jones, before we go there, wait, Vice Chair Dubin, do you have an additional question?
Yeah, I just have a process question, which is, I know in the past we haven't been able to comment on the comments, on the public comments directly. And I just wanted to know if that's like, when people raise questions from public comment, is that something that we're allowed, or someone's allowed to address, or how that works, or maybe that's something for next time, but I think some clarity on that would be good.
I'm happy to bring it back to the commission to see if there's follow-up comments after depending on the time. I think that's the constraint that we'll look at. But if we do have time, I'm happy to bring it back to commissioners if you'd like to comment on the public comment.
I just wasn't sure if we're allowed to with the Brown Act, or with, there was something that I thought that we weren't allowed to comment after the comments.
I think we can comment, but we can't make it a discussion item because it's not agendized.
We're not taking any action on the presentation tonight. We're just seeking clarity, getting additional information. So we can't take any votes or make any actions based on what's said, but we can take that into consideration into future agendas if that helps clarify. Okay, great. All right, Moderator Jones, we will yield the floor to you.
All right, thanks, Chair Bass. We do have two comments that have come in via email. The first is from Judy Grunstra. The email says, quote from guest essay in today's New York Times by Margaret Renkel. Quote, public policy is changing in favor of trees, at least in public places where elected officials acknowledge climate change. Trees are a public good. Protecting them in public areas is a no-brainer for municipal leaders, end quote. Please adhere to the city's Heritage Tree Ordinance. Thank you, Judy Grunstra. That ends that public comment. The second public comment is from Susan Cavalieri. It reads, the Heritage Tree Ordinance states that, quote, a heritage tree can be cut down only if a building design cannot be altered to accommodate it, end quote. My question is, have the architects been advised of this requirement, and how many trees will they be able to save with their design? Old trees absorb much more carbon dioxide than young small trees, and their large canopies cool and clean the air. Therefore, we cannot afford to lose the 10 heritage trees on Lot 4, which will help reduce both emissions and small particles from our air, and also protect against the heat island effect. Removing the trees is an equity and health issue for those living downtown in affordable housing. We know the climate crisis is accelerating, and the city will experience increasing heat. We need to act now to save the trees for a future which will sustain us. Thank you, Susan Cavalieri. And that ends that comment. That also ends our emailed comments. I'll now go to the comments that have come in through the Q&A. The first one is from Judy Riva. That's what the Zoom name is. It says, Agenda Item 8, Presentation. Question for Bonnie Lipscomb. If she doesn't present this info, how much funding is currently available from Measure S for the downtown branch? When will the extra funding needed be secured and shared with the public, other than the Friends fundraising efforts? Next comment, again from Judy Riva, that's the Zoom name. It says Item number 8, have the architects been advised about the city's Heritage Tree Ordinance, which states, quote, a heritage tree can be cut down only if a building design cannot be altered to accommodate it, end quote. How many of the heritage trees on Lot 4 will be preserved? Next comment also from Judy Riva, how much input will the public really have during the next phase, schematic design phase? Merely and then the rest of the comment appears to be cut off. And then the final comment in the Q&A is from Pauline Seals. It says, I'd like to ask Bonnie several questions, Item 8. So Pauline, if you would please raise your hand in the attendees so I find you. You can ask your questions open mic. All right, Pauline, go ahead.
First of all, I want to echo the concern about the trees. That's very real. And people in this town love trees. Secondly, the whole reason why we ever went to this project, according to Martine Bernal 5 years ago, was to take care of this deficit in the funding for the downtown library. And now at this point, and after all this torture, we apparently still have a shortfall, which could possibly be taken care of by a 10 million grant. I cannot personally see any reason why that 10 million grant could not be used for the restoring the library at the original site, which is what the vast majority of the public want and what they feel they voted for. I'm sure that Jason, given that 10 million, would be happy to redesign his first library restoration design and make it to 3,500 square feet. So I also want to mention that in January 18, the City Climate Action Plan was presented, which called for much less driving in downtown. And so I seriously question the claim that the parking will pay for itself. I believe that the parking will, in fact, be a albatross around our necks because the funding will have to be raised. We'll be paying interest on it for 30, 45 years. And yet Bonnie sort of says, well, maybe in 20 years, we won't need all that parking. And yet the debt is likely to be longer than that. And I don't believe it's necessary. I guess Bonnie is not allowed to answer, or is she?
We're just waiting for you to finish, Pauline. Is that the conclusion of your comment?
No, I'm asking whether Bonnie can respond.
Yes, we once we have all of the public comments, we'll have Director Lipscomb respond to them. So thank you for your public comment. And now, Bonnie, will let me double check with Moderator Jones just to see if that is the conclusion of public comments on item 8 for this presentation.
Chair Bass, that does end public comments that I see at this time.
Okay, great. So just to recap, Bonnie, we had several questions around heritage trees, concern around the fact that there are 10 heritage trees on the site, and what are plans that you all have underway to address that. There was also some questions around funding, Measure S, some questions around parking funding that Pauline just raised, and public process. That public comment was partially cut off, but if you could maybe recap just the steps for public process moving forward.
Sure.
Thank
So
you.
I think the first question around the Measure S funding, I did cover it in the presentation, but I will just add to that we are waiting for the final budgets to be closed and the sites to have everything, including the punch list, wrapped up for the Bransford and Garfield. And then once all of the punch list items have been completed and the project's closed out, we will see if there's money remaining to be actually turned back to the downtown library branch. So, you know, forthcoming, those two projects are not ones that we're managing, so I don't have the exact timing on those. Possibly Eric or Yolande would have a little more timeline information on that. I think the comment about the deficit of funding for the downtown library, what we are presenting is based on what we think, and we're feeling pretty confident that we'll be able to close the library gap on. And what we're getting in this mixed use project is considerably more library than what we would be getting on the existing site for the same amount of money. So we, as I mentioned in the presentation, we are taking advantage of shared overhead for construction contractors, soft costs, and actual infrastructure costs on foundation, ingress, egress. So there are real benefits, financial benefits of having this combined mixed use project. If we were doing it alone, the library would be paying for all of the all of the consultants, all of the contracts, all of the infrastructure, all the foundation, all of those costs. So I can definitely go in a lot more detail, but I don't think that's appropriate for this time. Let's see, the parking funding question. So the parking, we're not going to move forward on the parking unless it can be financed. And we are relying on commercial financing. So it's not going to be us saying, oh, you know, trust us, we can repay it. It's going to be the banks. So in order for us to issue parking revenue bonds, it's based on future revenue stream. So Pauline, your observation is very important and accurate. I did mention, oh, well, maybe 15, 20 years. The reality is if it's not paid for, we're going to have to continue to either pay off the bonds, if it's bonds that we're going, or the loan prior to converting to a different use. So that's something that'll be a decision if that is a goal or objective at the city 15, 20 years down the road that we'll make as a city. But that debt obligation is a debt obligation and it will be on the parking district. So on the parking district has successfully financed all the other parking structures that are downtown. We've never defaulted on any bonds or commercial lending. So that's just part of the process. In order for us to get financing, we're going to have that approved. So we will come forward at a future date once we have the cost estimate and the cost modeling, and we'll present that to the city council. And going to some of the questions about the heritage trees, we had some initial site walks with a city arborist, Leslie Kitty. And we also now are in the process of an independent, at her recommendation, an independent arborist is doing an entire site evaluation of every tree on Lot 4. So that will be available to the public soon. They're doing analysis on both the type of tree, the longevity of the tree, the health of the tree, if they recommend saving it, if they recommend removal, and we'll have all that information forthcoming. So that will be available. And yes, our architects are very aware of the city ordinance. We have shared that with them more than once. And we're going through this process, and then we'll be sharing that tree report when it's available with the architect team as well. If it's possible to include in the new design any of the trees, that's definitely our goal. We love trees too. But we also will be including trees and more trees than there are now in the new design. So, we have trees for the roof deck, we have them for the residential deck as well, and then we have them on the sidewalks. And preliminarily, the independent arborist and Leslie both agree that some of the trees that are on the site now, there's a variety of trees, non-native trees. They did have some concerns of the tree type as appropriate for city urban core. So all of that will be forthcoming in their report and will be presented to city council. How much input does the public really have on the next phase? The schematic phase, as I mentioned, we will have, another public process and outreach. Obviously, this next programming phase as well is going to be really important for the library team to weigh in. And part of that process, as far as how much community outreach and public, will be determined with them. But we'll have at least another one round during the schematic phase, community outreach on the library, and an additional round of community outreach led by Jason Architecture that's included in our contract with them right now in the design development phase. And I think that addresses the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Very helpful presentation. I think we've got some additional clarification through commissioner comments and also through the public comments. So thank you to all of our public commenters that spoke tonight. We do appreciate your input. At this point, are there any final comments from commissioners before we close and move to the next presentation? Seeing none, Bonnie, thank you so much for all of the great information. And Eric and Yolande, if you all can just help keep commissioners posted as opportunities arise or as new information becomes available, so that we can push that out to our contacts in the community. And it sounds like you all will be keeping latest and greatest updates on the library website as well as on the city main site as well. So we really appreciate those efforts. Obviously, the community is very interested in this project and have substantive input and comments. So important to keep them in the loop.
Thank you. I'll sign off. I really appreciate having the opportunity to present this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We will move on to our second presentation tonight. I'm doing a quick time check. We're at about 7:45. And I want to make sure we have plenty of time for Diane to present on progress and future of the library's strategic planning process. So Diane, hello there. Good evening. The floor is yours. We can.
Okay, good. Because I'm using the phone audio. Let's see. So I'm hoping you can see my slide.
Not yet.
Ah.
There we go.
Good. Sorry about that. Well, thank you for letting me join you today to give you this update. So I just wanted to provide you with a little bit of the process and progress that is going on with our strategic plan. And, the goals of our strategic plan will be to understand our community's needs better, to review the changing nature of librarianship and our library's values and mission and previous plans and how those can work together for us to go forth in the future. And then, of course, develop a 3-year plan that brings our resources and goals into alignment with our mission and values. So goals of where are we? There we go. I was on the wrong slide, sorry. There we go. Strategic planning team activities. In August 2021, we convened a team of 11 staff to lead the process. After reviewing the previous process for the plan, we set out to find strategic plans from other libraries and other organizations, and we sort of picked out what we liked and didn't like, and what we wanted to avoid in the plan. Sorry about that. I'm having lots of technical difficulties today. The team identified this list of groups. We identified priority groups that we wanted to really get input on surveys and community conversations. Team members tried to find contacts, the organizations that we may have worked with before in the community so that we could get input from them on the plan. Then at our all-staff training day in October, we conducted a SOAR exercise with staff to help identify our strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results as an organization. So this is a little different than a SOAR activity, than a SWOT exercise. That's something we're all probably more familiar with. The SOAR asks us to identify aspirations and results instead of weaknesses and threats. And then that kind of aligns pretty well with the Harwood process that we used in getting qualitative information from the community. So in this exercise, aspirations reflect the goals library staff have for the library system. And you can see here, diversity and inclusion, reaching non-users, engaged staff, and adequate funding. Those sounds like pretty good aspirations to me. And the results reflect what the library system would look like if we achieved those aspirations. So, we are envisioning the library is a community hub and the public believes that we're working in their best interest. And the library offers expanded, diverse, and inclusive programs and services reaching underserved people. So we also did a values exercise on staff day where we listed and prioritized personal values and organizational values. There were a lot of ties between different values during the prioritization process. So we may want to refine this a bit as we continue with the process. It's kind of interesting to see that the top 3 organizational values people selected really get to the heart of what libraries do, access to information, intellectual freedom, and service. So we use the Harwood model to do community conversations. The Harwood model provides a framework and a process and tools to understand shared aspirations among community members, perceived barriers to achieving those aspirations, and what people think the best path forward is. It's a model that's growing in popularity among libraries nationally. It's supported by the American Library Association. And the program encourages its participants to turn outward, to authentically engage members of the community, to understand people's aspirations for the community, people's concerns, how people think and talk about a given issue in relation to the community, and what changes are needed to reach our aspirations, and what people believe we can do and who they trust to do it. So we held 8 full-length community conversations. 2 conversations were with library staff. Unfortunately, we were not able to reach as many of our prioritized groups to hold these full-length conversations, which is a limitation in the data. So we also used an abbreviated survey tool provided by the Harwood Institute that we administered in person and online. Shared this survey with our contacts. Oops, sorry about that. We shared this survey with our contacts within the prioritized groups and had them send them to their clients and networks and partners in an attempt to get the most diverse responses possible. So the survey was administered in person at homeless encampments and senior living facilities and a lot of creative places. And then with the help of Catherine Miller from Applied Survey Research, we coded the feedback we received from the surveys and the community narratives and put the major themes into a format that's provided by the Harwood Institute. And it helps you create a narrative about community aspirations. So we developed 3 narratives, and we'll discuss those more fully at the February 10th partners meeting. But we did use the narrative data to kind of inform the information that we wanted to provide from the census data and the community assessment project provided by the, Applied Survey Research. And essentially, and this is going to be a mouthful, it's just the way the narrative is really supposed to be put together. People want to live in a community that is supportive, inclusive, and safe, but they're concerned that the siloed nature of our public life, the lack of economic and cultural diversity in leadership positions, and the fear people have around being vulnerable in public spaces is a barrier to increasing community feelings and safety. In general, people believe we need to focus on promoting greater mutual understanding within community members, skilled civic governance, and responsive library management. Okay. So it's very exciting that we're moving forward, and next we are going to be meeting with our community partners that represent a lot of the prioritized groups that we saw earlier. We'll be doing a goal setting workshop on February 10th, led by former San Jose Library Director James Light. And we'll provide them with community data from the census and the CAP provided by ASR, as well as the community narratives from our Harwood conversations. And then from there, we expect to prioritize 3 goals for the library to work on to achieve community aspirations. Then we'll take all the input from the partner meeting, the exercises with staff, all the research that we've got on the community data, and we'll start creating the action steps. So we'll also, at that time, start looking at benchmarks and measurements and what we'll need to collect to make sure that we're making progress. And then we'll put it into a written plan and we'll bring it back here for your review. And that is it. And I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you so much, Diane. Before I look to commissioners for their questions, I just want to give Director Wilburn or Assistant Director Howard an opportunity to add any flavor or context they would like to off the back of that great presentation.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bass. I just would add that I think this is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm really honored to be here at this time. Not only are there some great new and renovated libraries that are going to be available to our community soon, but we have the opportunity to really work on the needs of the community within the framework of aspirations of what our community wants to be. And so I think that as we gathered this other information on February 10th, we're going to be meeting with many of our other community partners and asking them to look at what our aspirations are for our community, what they would like to see, and what role the library can play in helping the community achieve those aspirations. So I love that Diane talked about the safety, inclusivity, and support. Those are key themes that came out of the survey research and the community survey. And so how do we as the library help the community achieve the goals that they want to? So we're really going to be looking at this process to really gather as much information as we can, again, from our community partners, from our library staff, our community members, so that we can then put together a really great strategic plan over the next 3 years and how we intend to do that. And I think that even without saying it, I think our buildings are a huge part of that. When you talk about safety concerns that the community has, having safe spaces where people can go. So I'm really excited about this strategic planning process as well. Thank you.
Definitely just second that. And then just the one thing to add, we had to delay we were supposed to start this plan a year ago, and we went to the Library Joint Powers Authority and asked to put a pause on it for a year because of the pandemic and because of so much uncertainty in the world, and especially with the library. And I think this plan will certainly be flavored from all of our experiences that we've had over the past 2 years, since we've learned that there is so much unpredictability in the world. And so we're really looking to make this an adaptive strategic plan, one where we will recognize over the next 3 years the types of questions that we really need to dig down and look at even more closely. So this is going to be less of a set of instructions on we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z over the next 3 years, as much as it'll be, one of the main goals will be continuing to go out and engage with the community to find out what questions we need to be asking and what we need to be doing differently, and how we're going to measure that as we grow as an organization.
Thank you both for those helpful comments. I will turn to commissioners now. I see Commissioner Wynne has a question. We'll go there first.
Yeah, I don't have a question, Diane. I really want to thank you for that presentation. It was great. I know you went through a lot of information very quickly, and I'm on the strategic planning committee, so I do look forward to digging in on February 10th. The one thing that I saw missing, and maybe it's just because I didn't see it, but I completely appreciate and embrace the diversity and inclusion values that are central to this plan. So there was outreach to non-users and, trying to bring people in, which I think is absolutely critical. But I didn't see, trying to engage users to see if there are other, services that might be provided to users that are not, where their needs are not being met. So it's a balancing act, of course, but I do hope that some of those 300 people that replied to your strategic plan were users and non-users, so that we really have a good, a good idea of what, what the need in the community is. But I'm really excited about it. I really want to applaud your work so far.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynne. Do we have any other commissioner comments or questions? Seeing none, I'm going to turn to Moderator Jones. I believe we do have a public comment on this item.
We do. The public comment is from Judy Riva. That's the Zoom name. It reads Agenda 9, but I believe she is addressing the presentation. It says strategic planning. Please don't take this as a negative comment, but for 5 years, the city has ignored the, quote, community narrative, end quote, about how they feel about abandoning the library location in our civic center, combining the library with a garage, and obliterating the potential for a town commons on Lot 4. And that ends the public comment. Well, maybe there's another public comment. It says, will there be a document that explains the goals and specific ways to measure these vague goals? And that ends the public comment.
Was that second comment by the same user, Moderator Jones?
Correct. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so it sounds like there's several substantive next steps coming in the near future, and there will be additional outreach. Thank you to the public for their comments this evening, and also commissioners for their participation in the process and the input you provided thus far. So, and a very important step, I think, and commend the library leadership team and staff for moving it forward in the midst of continuing dynamic, challenging global pandemic situation. So keep it up, you guys, and we'll look forward to seeing what results when you bring this back to the commission later this spring. Thank you all. Okay, that concludes item 8, our 2 presentations for this evening. So we will move on to item 9 on the agenda, which is our first general business item this evening, which is the election of our chair and vice chair for the coming year. So before I ask if there are any questions, I just want to turn to Director Wilburn and Assistant Director Howard if you all have any contextualizing comments for us before I proceed in asking commissioners for potential motions.
No comments from me. Thank you.
Okay.
Just
all right, commissioners, in terms of a process and next steps, I would propose that we potentially address one position at a time, first chair and then vice chair. Commissioner Termini, thoughts?
I'll nominate Lindsay Bass as the chair.
Second.
Third.
I hope that train didn't scare you, Lindsay, as it went by.
Wow. Okay, we have a motion on the floor made by Commissioner Termini, seconded by, I didn't see who seconded. Was it Commissioner Wynne or Ripma? Commissioner Wynne, thank you. Clerk Vargas, will you please do a roll call vote?
Rena Dubin,
Aye.
Jennifer Mount,
Aye.
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Mike Termini,
Aye.
Pamela Woll,
Aye.
Tricia Wynne,
Aye.
and Chair Lindsay Bass.
Aye. And I'll just say it is my honor to chair this group.
Thank
You all are very impressive, very capable. So thank you. Okay, knowing that time is ticking along, I will open the floor for any nominations for the position of vice chair. Commissioner Termini.
As you might expect, I would like to nominate Rena Dubin.
I would second that.
All right, great. We have a motion to nominate Vice Chair Dubin to remain in her position by Commissioner Termini, a second by Commissioner Ripma. Cruz Vargas, will you please do a roll call vote?
Rena Dubin,
Aye, thank you.
Jennifer Mount,
Aye.
Mary Ripma,
Aye.
Mike Termini,
Aye.
Pamela Woll,
Aye.
Tricia Wynne,
Aye.
and Chair Lindsay Bass.
An enthusiastic aye. Fantastic, great, thank you all. That concludes our general business agenda. And very excited about what is ahead of the commission this year. So looking forward to digging in with all of you and helping to keep progress marching forward in a way that brings our awesome public along with us. So with that, we will just mention item 10 on the agenda is our next scheduled meeting will be February 28th. Currently, the location for that is TBD. Hopefully we'll be back to hybrid at that point, but whether or not we'll still be virtual is TBD. Commissioner Termini, do you have a question?
Actually, just a comment. I just wanted to say that I wanted to thank the chair for attending this meeting. You had perhaps one of the most valid excuses for bowing out of this, having COVID, and you toughed it out. You came in, you did it like it was nothing. Thank you very much.
You guys make it easy. Thank you. Okay, well, and hopefully we'll be back to having one of our meetings in one of our amazing new library spaces as well. That was the best part of returning to in-person besides seeing everyone, everyone's shining faces. So mark your calendars, February 28th. And with that, we can adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
well.